Yo, what's going on, everyone? Abdullah Konte here of Win Sports again with another episode talking football. I think we ideally would want this channel to not only be focused on football specifically, but on everything. But, look, football's king. The NFL is king. I'm a big football junkie, so anytime I can jump on, talk about some things that were just on my mind, I'm going to want to do it, So thank you for indulging me. I just got finished watching the Miami. It's Monday night right now. I just finished watching the Miami and Indiana national championship, which was just, we've been blessed. Honestly, the last few weeks of just great games from the college ranks, from the NFL ranks, all of it. Definitely been happy with the results that I've seen overall, and it's just been fun and entertaining, and I've just had a really, really great time with it. It makes me a little nervous about when the season ends. I'm a big guy on, every night I kind of want to have a game on to watch. It just feels kind of, I know the first 2 weeks after the Super Bowl I'm chilling, but after that I start to really, really miss football again. Basically kind of wanted to sit here and talk about something that came across my mind, mainly because I was listening to a radio show. I think it was B. Mitch and Finley, and somebody had called in and they were like, hey, you know what? We just need to sign Trey Hendrickson over free agency because that gives us a lot of, that gives the Commanders a lot of freedom to draft whoever they wanted, when it comes to that first round. They got to sign an edge, and spending that money for Trey Hendrickson would be beneficial to kind of correcting some of the issues that they have right now with the lack of edge help and a lack of pass rush, and basically giving them the freedom to draft anyone. Maybe it's Jordan Tyson, maybe it is Jeremiah Love, maybe it's somebody else, maybe it's Caleb Downs, without having to worry about missing out on one of the pass rushers. And obviously after watching Ruben Bain, last night, the guy is pretty crazy good. So, if they're going to pass up on a guy like that for somebody else like Caleb Downs, should they get help elsewhere? And free agency comes first, so you kind of have to have a strategy going into that before you can get to the draft. And when I heard it, I was kind of like, you know what? Is that a bad argument? Is that a bad strategy? And I kind of was playing in my head, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Maybe it isn't that bad of an idea. Maybe it is a good idea to grab Trey Hendrickson, who I know is older, and everybody's talking about going younger, which I agree about. But is it a bad idea to bring somebody to correct that issue? And you can still go edge again in the draft, in that first pick, but is it smart to get somebody like Trey Hendrickson to come out and help this team? They have the money, so would it be a smart idea? I am known, though, to be that guy. At least when I first started playing fantasy football, I was known to be that guy who would draft people way past their prime. I would draft Julio Jones 4 years after it was he was relevant. It was you can't just look at the name and be like, yo, that guy is going to produce. You got to see and be able to have some foresight to see if this is a good idea. So basically, that's what this video is about, is we're going to look into the case of Trey Hendrickson. Now, reasons to say yes for Trey Hendrickson. The first thing is that this team has no pass rushers. They have no one, right? Look, when you think about who's on the team currently, Jacob Martin's a free agent. Dietrich Wise is a free agent. I think Jalen Holmes is also a free agent. They have Von Miller is a free agent. All the people that they brought in, they were on these short-term deals. Dorrance Armstrong will be back, but he's coming off injury. Dietrich Wise is somebody that they can return, but he's also on injury. and I heard Rico from Street Scores say that if signing Dietrich Wise means that we don't have to get Keldrick Falk, I'm all for it. And to be honest, I'm with him too, because I would rather see a real pass rusher than an edge setter being taken in that first round. So I laughed at that. I thought that was funny. I completely agree with that. That being said, They just don't have any pass rushers. I mean, Jacob Martin, I hope they bring back because I really liked the way he played overall. I thought that there wasn't a lot of people to look into for the future, I felt like he was one of the guys I was like, yo, bring that guy back. He brought great energy, and I felt like he was one of the bright spots of a horrible defensive season, right? But they don't have any help, so why not take a chance on somebody, And the second thing is that they have the money to do it, right? I mean, they're in the top 3, I think, in cap space. They have plenty of cap space to give this a chance to sign somebody. The one thing I think they're going to have to do with the lack of picks, the draft picks that they have, unless they trade back, they're going to have to spend some money in free agency to get some people to come out and help this team immediately if they really are trying to be, a quality squad. I don't know if they're going to do that, but I think that it's beneficial for it. They can't just keep doing these 1-year deals if they're not actually going to be able to draft people to bring in young talent to, carry this team for the future. They do have to start making some deals. And the problem is with Trey Hendrickson, he's older, so it's not the ideal person that you would want to pay, but can he still play? I mean, the guy led the league in sacks for 2 straight years. Last year, he was obviously hurt and going through that dispute with Cincy. I think that when he was hurt, he kind of just decided not to really come back, just to kind of punt on the season since they weren't playing very well and take his talent somewhere else in the offseason. So they have the money to take a chance if they want to take a chance. And then, the argument that the guy made on the call is that it gives you freedom for the draft. Is that true? Somewhat. I mean, now if you bring somebody, because right now the glaring hole on this team is edge rusher and pass rush. They have some other holes. This team has other parts that they need help, but that is automatic. You can't talk to anyone who watches this team or who's been covering this team and say that they don't have that issue. They had that issue last year, and their solution for it was they went through the draft and they ended up drafting Connerly, even though in free agency they didn't address it. And then after that, they were like, hey, well, we still need to bring somebody in, which is when Von Miller came through. Now, I think Von did okay of a job. He didn't do horrible or anything, but he led the team in sacks, but it wasn't anything special. Not to knock him. I think obviously it was crazy to cover a Hall of Famer, but at the same time, I mean, we're looking for young talent, somebody who can get into the double-digit sack number, right? So if they were to bring somebody like Trey Hendrickson and know that hey, at least we have one guy, they can go into it with the ability to draft obviously David Bailey or Ruben Bain or Arvil Reese if he was to fall. But then also hey, if the draft plays in a way where all those guys are taken and they got to take a guy like Caleb Downs or they got to take a guy like Jordan Tyson, can they do it without feeling oh my God, like they did last year, oh, we didn't address this position? Because without having a second pick, you won't really be able to address it until the 3rd round. And is a 3rd rounder going to evolve into it? Maybe. Trey Hendrickson was a 3rd rounder, so you never know. But maybe they could trade back even. You know what I mean? If they get Trey Hendrickson and they're like, hey, we can trade back to get some other picks and then also, be able to get a 2nd round or something like that, address more of the needs on the team. Maybe that's how you go. So those are my 3 reasons of why saying yes makes sense. Now, what I will say is I think saying no, obviously, there's big reasons to say no also too. Now, the biggest one is, look, he's over 30. I think he's 31. The drop off for edge rushers after they turn 30 is massive, right? And if you compare it to some guys recently, look at Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick was, he had 4 straight he had 4 double-digit sack years before the age of 29, actually 3 in a row from 26 to 29. But then after that, in the next 2 seasons, he only had 3.5 sacks combined, right? Huge drop off, right? You have Robert Quinn, also 4 double-digit sack years by the age of 29. Then he had 1 after that for the rest of his career, and it was at 31, and it was weird because it was actually his best season. He had 18.5 that year. But then after that season, that 31-year season, he only had 2 sacks in the next 3 years or something like that. It was some crazy drop off. Then you have Von Miller also. Von Miller we were very aware of who Von Miller is now after him being here this year, and he had 7 double-digit sack years by 29. After that, he had 0 since. Now he's 36. He's still had a pretty good career. He had 9 sacks this year. He also had a year where he had 9.5. So it's not like he was just completely like terrible or something like that. But if we're talking about paying somebody, like 25 to $30 million to come and play, you're going to expect some kind of production, high level production. Yeah. So when it comes to the sack leader in the league, after the age of 30, since 1995, there's been only, two people past the age of 30, 3 people past the age of 30 that have led the league in sacks since 1995. Michael Strahan did it in 2003. Kevin Green did it in 1996. I think Robert Massis did it in 2013. So that basically that 30-year cutoff, that 29 to 30-year cutoff is the one. That's really when things seem to kind of go downhill. Like, let's look, one more person I'll bring up, Ryan Kerrigan. Ryan Kerrigan, who's been here as a coach, huge, Redskin, Redskin legend. He had 4 by the age of 29, also 4 double-digit sack years by the age of 29. Then the rest of his career, he had 3 more seasons. He had 2 5.5 year sack years, which allotted to 11 sacks. And his last year in Philly, he had 0. So it's clear. And then he was out of the league right then. Boom. It's just clear that there is a big drop off. And once you get to that 30-year range, there's not a lot of people who've been able to continue their career like that. And if they did, they're not really producing at the level that they have done before that age range, right? So honestly, it depends on the deal that they could get for him if they were to bring him, right? But that's my reason for number 2. He seems to be very expensive, and the way he went through the negotiations with Cincinnati last year means that he's expecting to get paid, right? And somebody's going to pay him, but should it be this team? Like, I guess if you really believe it, you really got to believe it and be convinced that he's going to be able to play at a level where he can be a top 5 edge rusher. And I'm not saying that he can't. I'm just saying that if you're looking at the numbers and looking at the reasons to not believe it, looking at the guys who've been crazy good before, see how far they've dropped off once they hit that 30-year mark. It's pretty remarkable. Now, he might have another year in him, maybe another 2. I don't know how many years in a contract that he would be expecting, and that's what this is all about. It's like, what kind of deal could he get? I think there's definitely interest, right? I think getting him as well as pairing him with a rookie like Bailey would be great. Bailey could learn from him. That would be an awesome kind of move to do, but it doesn't make sense to do. I'm not really, if it was me, I'm not really trying to sign him for like a 3-year deal or something like that. Maybe like a 1 year just to see what's going on. And then the last thing is, the argument is, can it be, we talked about it being an asset or freedom in the draft. It also could be a crutch, right? Because if you just automatically assume that this, guy who's past 30, maybe past his prime, we don't know, is going to correct the issues at the D-line, and you're not bringing in young guys to come in and, build for the future, and miss out a guy like David Bailey or like a Ruben Bain because you're like, you know what, we're good. We got Trey Hendrickson. It could be very detrimental to you as a team moving forward, right? You got to get those guys. You got to get them early and, to produce right away. And so, basically in conclusion for me, if it was up to me, like, pass, right? And it's crazy to say because I do think he's very talented, and I think depending on the deal that he gets, it might be a steal depending on where he goes after this, because I don't think he's going to stay in Cincy. I think he's going to go somewhere else. But it is going to be an intriguing thing because when you think there have been people who paired him to this team, and I think it's because they just see the massive hole at edge rusher here in DC. But I just think, man, you're in the top 7 of the draft. there's going to be somebody there. I'd be really surprised if all the edge rushers are gone. It's possible, man. I mean, like the combine will say a lot. You just don't know who will be there. But I think there's some younger guys that I think that they'd rather jump onto. I'd rather them pair and get, even if you're not going to, settle on edge, I'd rather you pay money for Quay Walker and Breece Hall. You could probably get both of them for the same money that you're going to have to pay just a Trey Hendrickson, right? So I'm not sure if that's 100%. Don't quote me. I don't know if it's 100% true. It's obviously something I would have to look into, but I'm pretty sure you could probably get those two guys with the price of what Trey Hendrickson is expecting to make. So basically, it's just, it was a good argument, and I think it was something to divulge in. And, I think that's the hardest thing about this league for GMs and people who are analyzing. Like I said before, I've been a guy who's like, oh, man, this guy is great. He's been great for 6 years. Bring him. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like you bring him and you're like, he ain't good anymore, right? So, we definitely, I think it's really hard to analyze, like, is this guy going to be good moving forward or not? You do have to play into the fact of, like, how they were before. Were they good players before? But doesn't make sense to invest in this guy? Can he be great later? And I think the guys who can analyze and evaluate, maybe see the guys who are the diamonds in the rough and how they're going to be better for the team in the future. Obviously, they're guys who make the best GMs. So I'm not a GM. I'm just a guy who likes football and likes talking about it. So thank you guys for listening to me on my rant about free agency. I'm excited about more things to come. Obviously just, the off season is, it's long. So, there's a lot of people speculating and talking, and some of it is worth, talking about, and some of it's not. And I felt like this was one of them that was at least fun to talk about. So, obviously, if you guys enjoy, feel free to comment, subscribe. Obviously, leave feedback or thoughts on what you would do. Would you sign Trey Hendrickson? Am I wrong on this argument, or are these some good points? I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, thank you for your time. I appreciate everybody. I'll talk to you soon. All right, peace.